Hi, I'm Jeremy Reeves, head blender of Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco Company, and I'm standing right now in a historic Perique processing barn that is now defunct, but it's on the property of Ricky and Derek Roussel, proprietors of 31 Farms. They are our Perique partners. The folks at 31 Farms are basically third generation Perique processors at this point. Ricky grew up working Perique. His wife Barbara grew up working Perique, and he and his son Derek have embarked on trying to bring Perique into the next generation. Ricky, you grew up basically in Perique.
In Perique and vegetable farm.
And how many farmers were there when you were coming up?
We probably had 200.
200 farmers.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many farmers are there now growing Perique in St. James Parish?
Today, 2.
Wow.
Yep. Grand Point, if you're familiar with that, it's a high ridge. It was a ridge that was built over time as the rivers would rise in the spring, and it built that, deposited the sand layers and silt right in that area, alluvial soils. Mm-hmm. And when the first Acadians came in, that's where they settled. My great-great-grandfather, they were granted 200-acre farm. They tried growing vegetables and said, no, this land, the only thing that land is good for is tobacco. So they grew tobacco.
This whole deal started from what is a break in the river back before it was a levee. It sat there and produced sediments, but it wasn't a one-time thing sediment. This is years and years. I'm definitely a guy that understands or wants to understand the science in soils. Mm-hmm. And so I got caught up into what makes the 200-acre triangle special. And I think what it is there's a piece of 3 soils that mix in here. And soil is built over hundreds of years and thousands, not one day.
When the tobacco was handed down here from the Indians, they loved the tobacco, Pierre Chenier and a few of the foremen, and they said, how do you do this? And the Indians said, we show you. And they brought them into the swamps and they showed them how, swamps and I guess bottomland hardwoods. And they brought them out to some hollowed cypress stumps, and they showed them, and they opened them up, and they showed them, they pulled the tobacco out of the stump, and they said, this is what you do, 1 year in the hole. So, okay, we got that. So Pierre got the idea, he said, well, we don't have that many hollow stumps. So he came up with the idea of building boxes. And then they had 1/4-inch rods that was threaded on each end where they could secure the box tight because of the handling of those boxes and the pressure of the rocks they put on. They used to use ballast rocks. And the ballast rocks came off of river boats, cruising the river, going back and forth in the river and the ocean. And when they got to their destination to pick up products, they would unload ballast and load it back with barrels of sugar, tobacco, indigo. That was our 3 major crops back in the early 1800s. From the square box, it was the early 1900s. Christophe Roussel, which is the grandson of Maximilian, he came up with the use of barrels. And the way he got that was that New Orleans was having barrels shipped to them with the Sazerac, the rye, the whiskers. Right. So they didn't have any use for barrel. So Christophe came up with the great idea. He said, we can use barrel. That would be a lot easier to press. Put more tobacco in the press, in the barrels, instead of those boxes. Because in the mornings they had to stack all these boxes, that was pain. Yeah. So they moved on to the barrels, and look, been using the same stuff, that procedure ever since. And they would go to the barns, same thing we doing today. In 2 to 3 months, you take that tobacco out of the barrel, work it, put it on the table, work it, and then flip it. Whatever's on top of the barrel goes in the bottom of the barrel. And they do that, and that's why we still do it today, every 3 months. So it's a unique process. It's a lot of work, but it's every time you open that barrel, you get a sense of your aging process and what you got to do to critique if something is not doing right. You know, and it could be where you got to be careful. Some barrels might hold a little more water than the other. So when that happens, you leave it out a little longer. Sometimes in good weather like this, we'd leave it out at night and cover it with a burlap sack just to let it keep airing and drying, but not allowed to pick up any moisture. There was a taboo to pull tobacco out of a barrel when it was cloudy and rain. No humidity. You want as low as humidity as you can.
When you remove the pressure, the tobacco is like a sponge, and it's like pulling everything that's in the air into it.
Now, the most amazing part is that when you got, and we're gonna call it green tobacco, but that's our first one. When we strip, de-stem, wash it, de-stem, put it in a barrel, that tobacco has so much heat and it's fermenting so fast that if you put too much pressure on the barrel, it'll actually pop the rings or blow the bottom out the bottom of the barrel, and the barrel will slide up that jack all the way to the top. Like this, you can imagine, and we had that plenty of times. The bottom was still on the ground, and the barrel just goes up, and you got that stack of tobacco just heating. So we learned that you put it in, put the jacks on it, put a little pressure. Next day you go there, if you can turn it once or twice, and you just keep slowly. It may take 30 days to get where you can't screw the barrel down anymore for a while. And then all of a sudden the juices will start rising, and as you pull the moisture off of that, and normally what we do is leave the water in those barrels once we put the tobacco in for at least 20 days, because you see it bubbling. And when it quit bubbling, that's when we start pulling water off. Because as long as it's bubbling, it's fermenting.
You know, the information is limited because this is a process that was handed from, they just did it exactly how their father did it. And that father did it exactly how his father did it. And that's what's unique about it, that I'm not gonna say I came here and thought that I wasn't gonna do it differently. Yeah. I was gonna try and I was the new generation. We're gonna make it easier. There's smarter ways of doing things, doing all those pieces with it. And that's really what transformed my inspiration and love into it. And then I embraced, man, this is what makes it great. It's made me realize that the grandfathers before us, this isn't rocket science. We want to question what they did because we don't have the knowledge of why. But it was a trial and error process.
Absolutely.
You're not doing this and failing 2 years in a row. When you fail, you're going to go back and you're going to tweak this thing just through trial and error. And it ends up having this steady principle that they go with. And like I said, there's not I don't know if every generation can tell you the reason, but there was a reason why they did it. There's a reason barns are situated a certain way. And I'm not telling you they knew why, but they knew how to fix it. Because you're just not doing this and failing. If you fail 2 years in a row, you're probably out of the tobacco business.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just too hard to not succeed. And so I've learned that. So I always go back, and now our discussions are more of, this is what they did before, let's figure out why they did it, and let's make sure we stay true to that, because that has a place in Perique.
Right.
And it's real simplistic things, but and now the understanding of this is what it creates, like spacing. You know, one thing about this product, I'm convinced that all the little things matter.
It's very, very unique process. I love it. It keeps you interesting. You don't lose too much sleep unless we get a flood, rain, or hurricane. That's the bad part. But other than that, it's an enjoyable crop to go out. And when I tell you every day, and since I planted that tobacco, I'm in those fields every day. I'll walk them, but no, the process, it's handed down, it always was, from generation to generation. And it's sad when the older people were dying off, passing away, the younger people, all they can remember is what they saw that their grandfathers and their dads did. But they didn't know why they did it that way. Very few had, I guess, the want or the energy to ask them, Pop, why we gotta do it this way? I mean, my grandfather, if I asked him why I gotta do this, he'd hit me in the head and he said, because I tell you. You know, it was funny, but that's the way life was.
You always read, and it's like, hey, it was a very specialized, and it had a richness to it, not necessarily on a value of wealth or anything. It was just kind of sought after of its unique little, what it offers in the market. And the market, it's not widespread.
Right.
The market fits the crop. The crop is very small, is very tight niched. It comes from a person that really appreciates it, and they have to find where they can use it in there. But what's nice is the people who really appreciate it, they like what we do. They like that unique part and set of values to it. And that's what I'm gonna try and get these kids to understand on my end, try and keep it a generational product. You gotta play the patience game. You know, I still think there's a set of ownership when you go work dirt, do these things. So we always have our family weekend. We always push ourselves where this crop is never one of those, it works out on a perfect set of course. Sometimes it's like every hand on deck needs to come. This is what you're doing this weekend. And we bring them all in. And now, instead of the moment where, man, it's a little bit ahead of us, we need help, you're overwhelmed, you kind of embrace that deal. You embrace the grandmother come and bring out sandwiches to you because you're gonna take a 30-minute lunch, 20-minute lunch, and we're gonna keep working. And there's value to that side of it. And I think there'll be value on the long term. And I think what happens is, no different than my experience, I didn't, like I said, I was around it, but didn't get to participate in it as much as I would have liked to. By allowing that participation, that circle, it'll come full circle to where they'll realize, hey, this is something cool that our family did that we're going to continue. You know, absolutely. I really believe that'll happen.
So thanks so much for joining us for all of this, and a big thanks to 31 Farms for hosting us, allowing us to come in and see a bit of what they have going on here. They provide all of the Perique that Cornell and Diehl uses in any of our blends that contain Perique, and so they've been doing it a long time, the right way. If you want to experience real St. James Perique, check out some of our blends that contain Perique. Thanks so much to all of you, and we'll see you next time.